Hey, good morning. Welcome to the Morning Hustle. And I'm Worth Playboy.
And I'm my Playboys Bunny.
And we are going to be covering some of the internet topics of the last week, which is how we've kind of like drilled down this this show, is giving more topical feedback.
Yeah.
And including some of the principles of game and relationships and sex all in one.
Yeah, I mean, we purposefully try to avoid like the topic of the moment, anything that's like relevant in the moment, but not necessarily evergreen. We try to avoid a lot of that in other shows, in our podcast, and even on the Twitter, feed. So this is an opportunity for us to kind of talk about some of the more like current relevant stuff.
Exactly. And how game and what we do applies to it. Because when people come to Twitter or come to our site, we want to kind of stay in our lane.
Yeah.
Of, picking up women, meeting girls, running your relationship, having the best relationships you can. But like the submarine incident or every day it's funny because when she was working more in fitness and I was more home on Twitter, and then we switched.
Those were the days.
And then we switched. She'd say, "So what was the topic of the day?"
Yeah.
And there's always a topic of the day on
There
Twitter.
is. Yeah, very much.
So, or there'll be a trend during the week. It might be like body count or, just something that lasts about 5 to 7 days or, but that's what we try to avoid.
Yeah.
But this allows us to, talk a little bit more about that
and
more in depth, because a lot of this stuff, it's hard to keep in a tweet.
It's true.
We want people to be able to know what they're know what they're going to see when they get to our site.
Yeah, very much so. Very much so. And I'm just trying to keep Playboy alive today because that's why I got the tits out. Hey.
You don't have to apologize for that.
Hey.
You never have to apologize for that.
It's been a weird few weeks, so we're just trying to stay alert here. Oh my gosh. So, yeah.
Well, we've never been in this business in the summer. Not like this.
Right.
We've never been doing this full time through an entire yearly cycle. So it's quite the,
yeah. And I've been having to travel not by choice, not for pleasure. So our maxim, I'm going to read it since I'm sure Fort Worth cannot see it from where he is. Maxim number 7 from Chateau Hortiste. Your girl will thank you for your steadfast devotion to your belief in yourself.
Self-confidence.
Huge.
Irrational self-confidence.
Goes a long way.
This is where any doubt that you have in your decision-making, don't voice it.
Yeah.
It's okay to think it. It's okay to bounce it off of your male mentors, your friends, your buddies. She doesn't need to know any of this. Yeah. I've realized the less I tell, I know this sounds crazy, but the less I tell Bunny, the happier she is. And everything still gets done. Yeah. The less she knows about the ups and downs and ins and outs and, roller coaster, which even if you own your own business, it can be in a single day. You can be up and down 10 or 15 times.
It's true.
From 5 a.m. to 10 p.m. But if a lot of it plays out on its own, but she will reward you over time. And I think it's one of those things you just have to test.
Well, the bottom line is, as far as females go, is let's say you say, we're having a financial problem, we're not getting paid by this, we're getting sued by these people, whatever the case may be. Girls go into absolute panic mode when they hear this kind of news, whatever the bad news is, whether it's health, whether it's financial, whatever the case may be. Girls go into super panic mode. So we just start spinning. We're like, oh, well, I'm going to cancel this. I'm going to cancel this. I'm going to cancel this. Or, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. And none of it generally none of it actually helps the bottom line of the problem that's happening. It just causes more like chaos in the world that you're living in, where you're trying to actually manage it.
Like he goes to Netflix to relax, but it's turned off.
It's canceled.
Like, well, I thought we'd save $11.
Yeah.
And you've mentioned your mom. Your dad got really your dad's good about not mentioning things to your mom, because it was just, she's an only child. Yeah. And it was just those two, and he owned his own business. Yeah. So he knew what to. And we're talking about a different generation. Sure. But her mom not good about reacting to stress like. Yeah. Yeah. And most girls aren't, and it's unnecessary.
Well, and my mom is very much that, or my parents are very much the ones that she has a weekly allowance or a weekly budget. Right. She has an account where that money is in, so she can't go over. But I mean, even one of my best friends up in Arkansas, her husband, I mean, essentially all of my friends have husbands who are self-employed or are business owners for some reason. But if he's having like a legal issue, a financial issue, she immediately just starts spinning out of control. And she's an otherwise pretty reasonable human being, but literally she would never know the difference if he never said anything. She'd be home caring for the house, watering the plants, walking the dogs, making sure there's food on the table. But instead, she's wringing her hands, not doing anything about it, not like actually contributing to the bottom line of what's going on. But it's true what you were saying, that even, I mean, you and I'm very much a huge part of your business. And yet it's true. The less I know, sometimes I'm just like, I need a number, like what's the budget for the week? Or, the less I know and the more kind of boundaries that I know to stay within, the better off we both are.
And I think that might be one of those things where people move in together and things start falling apart. Yes. Because the guy's able to, when he lives by himself or away from his girlfriend or wife, he's able to process these things on his own. Yes. And I hate to, I know this sounds crazy because when I was younger, I didn't really get it. But a lot of these girls, you go, so what's your husband do for a living? She's like, I don't know. I don't know. He leaves the house and he comes back at 6. Yeah. And there's like heavy equipment involved and maybe computers. Yeah. That's what you usually get. I don't know. It's something with computers. Yeah. And they're the happiest, And I think it's true. I think some guys are just quiet, which helps. But the less you tell, the better off you are. Yeah. Girls don't need to know. And just sticking with your guns, even if you make a mistake, there's no reason to point it out. Right. I know that sounds crazy, but there's no reason. It's not going to benefit anyone to go, yeah, I was wrong. No, just move on.
What is it that you've always said? Mistakes were made.
Mistakes were made.
But not by me.
I know this sounds horrible. It's from Chateau. Never apologize. You get maybe 2 apologies in a lifetime. Yeah. And he gave examples of President Trump said mistakes were made. People make mistakes, and then he would move on. I was like, I need to practice that. That's pretty funny.
You're pretty good at it.
I'm good at it now. But all this stuff you need to practice. If you really do, if you're causing stress in your girl's life because you're open and you're up front and kind of dump on her or whatever, just practice this for just go, I'm going to try this for a month. Yeah. And restrain yourself. Practice just like you practice anything else, of not mentioning something. Yeah. And just don't. And you'll see at the end of the month, the problems pretty much are the same, but she's not as stressed.
Now, I will say for you artists out there needs to be, I think there's a healthy balance where you say, where she goes, because if you're not talking, if you're not
completely,
you know what I mean? Literally, you guys get so in your head about things that are going on, good, bad, or indifferent. Good morning, Renee. We were just talking about you this morning. As we were getting ready. But if you're just in your head, literally, you guys just aren't talking. You just don't speak.
Yeah.
And so there's a, whenever she says, hey, what's wrong? Are you okay? Is everything? I think it's okay to say, I've just got a lot going on at work right now. Yeah. Well, tell me about it. Oh, I'm handling it. It's fine. And then change the subject. But that way, whenever she's kind of curious what's going on or wondering why you seem a little cranky, she's like, oh yeah, he's got a lot going on at work. Or there's a big project on my head right now, or whatever line works for you. I think it's a good idea to say something, but make sure that she understands it's covered.
I don't think men and women outside of this little realm realize how much girls talk and how little men talk.
Yeah.
Or interact in a day.
Which I think is why so many men just start like dumping the information from their brains onto their wives and then wondering why their wives are cranky and bitter and exhausted over time. Yeah. It wears on you.
True story.
True story. Okay, next. This is from Reddit. Okay, I'm just going to kind of hit the highlights here. So me, a 29-year-old female, feels repulsed by sex with my boyfriend of 33 because he feels like a family member. And essentially what this is saying is this couple has been together so long, about 5 years, that it almost feels dirty to be intimate because everything's intertwined. Kind of like what you're saying about the Maxim. There's no secret. Everything is transparent. There's nothing surprising. There's no sexy nuance. And I will say off the top of my head that this guy failed from the beginning in making sure that the girl understood that this was a sexual relationship. You can be friends. You can have a great time hanging out together. You can have a cool life. You can do lots of just normal, everyday stuff. But at the heart of every love relationship needs to be fucking.
Yeah. Well, what she's kind of describing is there's no anxiety.
Yeah.
Or nervousness on her part. And there has to be a little bit of a gnawing feeling for girls all the time.
Yes.
If they're married 30, 50 years, she's really not sure if she's going to be invited to the funeral. Even no matter what, girls have to have a little bit of tension to be turned on.
We need security with tension.
Yeah. But the tension, as soon as that goes flat, because that's what, and I had to read this a few times because this isn't like a common thing, at least in our realm.
I wouldn't think so.
We don't see that. And what it's literally like it flatlined. It's not anything the man did. But it made it so comfortable. And the number one answer to this is applying dread to the relationship.
Yes.
And anything that can create a little bit of tension, being he's a little bit less communicative, he's a little more absent.
He seems to be flirting with other girls.
He starts laying down, getting a little bit of competitive, because she's not worried about anybody else snatching.
Right.
But creating that sense of jealousy, just a little bit.
Yeah.
That gnawing sensation that he might be gone. Because, again, this is where she's at right now, and that can be changed.
Yeah.
And applying a little bit of dread, and unfortunately, there's not a better word. Dread really upsets people when they hear the word.
Yeah.
But there's so many different levels to it. And it really saves relationships.
It does.
Guys do it unconsciously or inadvertently or accidentally and solve their relationship problems. And some men go out, seek the solution and apply it. But that's what's happened is there's no tension.
Yeah.
There's no anxiety.
Yeah.
It's like I used to say, I'd never sit down with a girl on a date that was able to eat because they get nervous.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
And that's a good sign.
Yeah, exactly. I'm always like, if she's able to eat in front of you, she doesn't really like you.
It's true.
But there's different levels to all this stuff, If you're a chef, it'd be an insult,
right.
if you didn't eat. So that, there has to be some anxiety.
Yeah.
or a nervousness around you, and it can last all the time.
I know.
You know?
I'm nervous right now.
Exactly. You should be. Dead eyes, baby.
But that's good.
Yeah, and I don't know your perspective. I mean, it's maybe like 2%, 5% of the relationship. You know what I mean? Just like not knowing what
I would say the deeper in the relationship you get, the more spread out the dread. But I do think, number one, I think that maybe every 2 months, kind of spending a week where you're a little bit more chatty with other women in front of your wife or while your wife is there. Maybe, you talk more about a woman at work or something, just a little bit. I mean, we're not talking about you blowing up your life, or destroying your family.
Yeah. I mean, it's easier because we interact with the opposite sex in our lives.
Yeah.
But for a lot of guys, they may not, other than family, she never sees them around any other women, you know?
Yeah.
So
exactly. But and I would say on the front end, you were great at this. Talking about other women, telling stories about other women goes a long way on the front end. When you're part of a rotation, when you're first dating, it creates this high competitiveness, but a high value for you because other women desire you, which no woman wants a man that other women do not want. So, keeping her on her toes a little bit goes a long way, even as the relationship progresses.
Exactly. Displaying high value through stories.
Yeah.
And it's something that we teach people how to do.
I love it. Okay. What are this is a question that we got through the website. So myplayboysbunny.com/men, and you will see a place there where you can submit questions for live Q&A. This is one of those. What are some of your favorite pickup books? And I would say that should expand to, there are some really great fundamental books that all men, especially all men tuning into us or following us, should read beyond our own stuff.
Yeah, the mystery method is foundational.
Yeah.
Because it gives you structure and outline and how this works.
Yes.
And he's talking about like stopping people in public, day game, but it can apply to every type of interaction.
Yeah.
And they get, if you're kind of nerdy, you'll love it.
Yeah.
I had to read it a couple of times to kind of like really wrap my head around it because he uses his own verbiage, his own vocabulary, which, when you're in the pickup field or game, we learn stuff that it's a certain language that not everybody uses.
Yes.
But the mystery method is what I always tell people, start there.
So good.
Then you can take recommendations to find stuff that's a little bit more just like, if you're an older divorcee and you're getting back in the game, you find stuff for, like younger women, older men, just like what I put out there.
Yes.
And the first thing we tell guys that just divorced in late 30s, 40s, 50s is start working 10 years younger.
Yeah.
But all that is like, how do I do that? Well, the mystery method gives you a structure and an outline and a roadmap, and guys need some type of, because when you describe this stuff ephemerally and just kind of like throw it out there, they don't get it.
Yeah.
If you get a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 step program, then you start plugging your steps into it. Right. Just like my dating system.
Yeah.
And that's what I modeled it after was the mystery method, was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that way you can repeat it and improve upon it. Just like a workout.
Absolutely. Well, and there's also the rational male, which is foundational. Really good.
And what a rational male will allow you to do is to look at your history. And if you're late 20s, early 30s or older, it's easy to read that and see how girls follow that prescription of how they're going to behave, and how life evolves in a relationship.
Yeah.
It's good stuff.
What about what do you think is the best Coach Corey Wayne book?
The 3% man.
Man,
Again,
that's a good one.
Again, you want to reinforce the basics.
Yeah.
In multiple directions. You got to hear a number of stories from different sources.
Yeah.
And Coach Corey Wayne, how do I describe it?
He is easily digestible.
Yeah.
His stuff is really relatable. Where Rational Male, it gets heavy.
Yeah.
It gets heavy sometimes. It's very I can't think of the word now.
Intellectual?
Yeah, that's not what I was going for.
Oh.
But
Cerebral.
it's a lot cerebral, because Rollo Tomasi is very deep. He's very much an intellectual. He's thought about this a lot. His books are thick, heavy.
Yeah.
But Coach Corey Wayne, 10% or 3% man, really good.
And if you're not a reader, his old videos where he's doing emails, he did an email every day, I think 5 days a week, and he advises presidents of corporations and gang members. I mean, everybody loves that man.
And he looks like he's heading out to the golf course.
Yes, because he actually probably is.
He looks like an every guy.
Yeah, he works out of Florida, so he's kind of got a relaxed attitude. But he delivered consistently great information that's actionable and easy to remember because he uses stories. And you start going, yeah.
He's really good.
A lot of this is just repetition, but it has to be somewhat entertaining and memorable.
Yeah. He
so
does a good job of that.
I'm glad you brought him up.
Yeah.
Mystery Method, Rollo.
What about
Black
Classic
Dragon?
The Game? Or
A lot of people start with that. I don't know how much applicable information is in there because I got that book at a used bookstore like years and didn't break the binder.
Yeah.
And it's in this apartment somewhere. I cannot find it.
I think it's on the sex shelf.
God help me. This is every shelf. We do when we have kids or family around. We got to hide all the books. When we have a party, everything's got to go in the closet. So, who else? Let's think. I like Black Dragon.
Yeah.
Caleb Jones, his stuff is good.
Yeah.
It's good. You got it. He's not the easiest to like. He's got some very strict ideas.
Right.
But if you kind of go, you know what, I'm going to get this and I'm going to take what I can take from it. You may not agree with everything he says, but it's good and it's on the ground and his stuff works.
Well, and what's interesting, I think, about exactly what you're saying is when you learn a new trade, when you're learning a new hobby, you don't expect every single thing you read to apply to what you need in that moment. And yet you still take it in and you take it with a grain of salt, you put it in the back of your mind, or you let it go completely if it doesn't apply. But you still value the content. I think that's something that's missing in the dating, attraction, pickup realm of things is people are like, it's almost like
they see one thing that doesn't agree.
Throwing the baby out with the bathwater, where there's a lot of things here that are really valuable and that are applicable at some level, at some phase of your life.
Yeah, almost everything. I mean, that's like Black Dragon. He's very into non-monogamy.
Yeah.
It's not something he believes in. He doesn't think that it works. But his how to meet girls and managing women and relationship, the stuff works.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with non-monogamy. It's just good management.
He essentially lives his life running a rotation.
Exactly.
Period. That's all there is. I mean,
so
that's
lots
just
of experience.
Yeah.
Lots of experience.
No more Mr. Nice Guy.
Which I've never read. I have it, but I've not read it, so I can't say anything. But anything that pushes you towards
it gets a lot of publicity though.
Yeah. It's probably a softer title than like Chicks Dig Jerks, like my book, and Asshole Game. And so it's more digestible. Yeah. But it's Asshole Game.
Yeah.
So. Well,
and I would say Fuck Files by Ryan Stone because it's very much like field report kind of stuff. And so, there's the field report, there's a lesson, all of this, people learn in stories and he does a good job of telling stories. And then you're pulling the lesson from that and applying it to your life.
And that's the thing. This is what you guys don't see today. If you're relatively new in the last couple of years, like Chateau Heartiste, we had the comments section. And there could be a 5-paragraph blog post from Royalty. And there would be 600 comments, including Rolo.
Yeah.
And I think Roosh V was in there at some point. And like all the guys you see now that are old school were in those comments. And then they, you know, the So Suave forums. There were other at Roosh's forum. Had where they could interact. And I guess Twitter's kind of taken that spot. And that's one thing that I've always wanted. That's why I don't interfere when people start going back and forth. Yeah. You know, it's okay to let people be wrong and let them learn. Yeah. You know?
Well, and you're really good about that in the Twitter comments, unless they're being
insane.
Yeah, unless they're just kind of going off the rails. You're really good at letting the conversations happen, because if they're wrong, someone else will call them out. There's no reason to block or call, you know, or say it yourself. The other people who know and who are learning will jump in there, and then they learn better.
Yeah, with Chateau, you would learn as much, if not more, through the comment section from real life examples, you know, applicable. Then the blog post was one thing, but it was really an impetus for people to start talking about what's working for them.
Incredible.
And their experiences, and you're like, this shit's good.
Yeah, seriously.
So that's why I never interrupt comments, because you never know what's going to come up.
I love it. Next on the agenda. Okay, so I don't know if you're actually going to be simple soon. So this is an ideal girlfriend survey that Rivellino put up. And so I wanted to share this because the results are in on it. So I thought it was kind of good. So he says, the ideal girlfriend: number 1, thin; number 2, pretty smile; number 3, long hair; 4, tight, clean pussy. I do love that he always says clean pussy. 5, faithful and obedient; 6, loves to cook; 7, doesn't talk too much. Sorry about that, honey. 8, soft, pretty feet. 9, never has been to Coachella. And then he's looking for what number 10 is. Number 10, either big tits, which got 22% of the votes, and no tattoos, which got 64% of the votes.
What was the third choice?
No, show results.
It gives you an idea how much guys really do hate tattoos.
Yeah.
It's one thing they kind of accept because you see a lot of it.
Yes.
It's kind of like over a decade ago, I didn't like hiring guys as coaches with tattoos. And then I went for like 6 months and couldn't hire anybody.
Right.
Because I couldn't find any guys under 35 that didn't have tattoos on their forearms.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
And finally I just hired, and they turned out just fine.
Right.
But it was a what would you say, a bias, you know, that kind of hurt me. But guys do not like, because it's very masculine.
Yeah, tattoos on females are definitely a masculine.
Yeah. And especially forearm or a sleeve and all chest tattoo, it's just not good. And these guys are like, they don't care for it.
Well, like we've talked about, beauty is symmetry.
Yes.
And so anything that throws the symmetry off, which you never see symmetrical, like a matching tattoo on either side so that there's now symmetry. That just doesn't happen.
Exactly.
You know, so it distracts the eye, it pulls the eye away. It's like putting, and I mean, it's clear, like I have a tattoo, like I get it, but it's like putting a trash can in front of a piece of art. You know, the body is truly a masterpiece.
Yes.
That's biblical. You put something else on it and it distracts the eye.
Anything that changes the line.
And the bottom line is every tattoo is definitely, you know, indicative of trauma of some kind, of some level. It's kind of like a cut mark in a tree or something, like one of those things where it can heal, but that scar is still there.
Exactly. And even if it's like, this was like you and a girlfriend.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
having to go your separate ways?
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
I mean,
and it was traumatic.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, it represents something, or they'll go, you'll say, what's this mean? They're like, it means I was a dumbass when I was 18.
Exactly. Yeah.
So.
Very, very seldom, I would say, girls wouldn't say, yeah, I mean, if I could go back, I would not have it. But at the same time, because they're also then reminders of kind of that person or that experience or that trauma. Yeah. So
they don't like that person.
Not to mention they don't age all that well. No. That's why you'll see girls who got them at like 16, 18 years old, and now they're in their 40s, and it just looks bizarre.
True.
So, yeah, I thought that was a good survey that Riv put up.
And I think it's funny because, like, what was it, like 4 or 5 years ago? Like, either AJ or one of the other guys put up, like, what women should do to be more attractive. And it made it all the way to, like, the major newspapers.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, people were, like, all bit out of shape.
Woo!
Who was that?
It was AJ
Oh,
Cortez.
Was it? Okay,
yeah,
that's great.
Yeah. It was, how to be an attractive girlfriend, I think it was. And it was what's ironic about that is it made it all the way to the national news. He got a lot of fucking heat for that. But what's ironic about that is we were all putting those kinds of lists up back then. It was like, I don't know what it was magic about his, but man, it set the world on fire. And it was on the money. I mean, there was nothing not accurate about that list.
And now, like Riv puts it out there, he doesn't even get any pushback,
Oh, I love it.
That's funny.
Okay. What are some good, this is another question from the website. Thank you guys so much for submitting so many great questions. What are some good questions or conversation, like games or techniques that you can use to ask during, like, get to know you dates, whether it's a first date or just kind of but the way it was worded, it was kind of like, what are some playful ways to have a little bit more unique conversation? I think you were really good about this.
It's been a long time.
You're welcome.
You can ask them what they're passionate about other than their kids and their job.
Yeah.
They'll go for kids right away.
Oh, yeah.
Take them off the table.
Yeah.
And then let them start rolling. And there's always marry, fuck, kill. Pick 3. One you'd marry, one you'd fuck, one you'd kill.
Yeah. Oh, that's
and
funny.
usually people watching helps. I didn't have to use people watching a lot, but it's there if you need it.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
It's a good fallback.
Exactly.
People watching is always safe. Literally, wherever you are, there's something you can talk about.
And it kind of throws you guys together as a team.
Yeah.
And you're working as a team against other things.
It's true.
For the first time.
It's not
you against her. It's you all together.
Yeah.
Against whatever's in front of you.
And if she's being argumentative about it, then you're like, oh,
now you know. Yeah,
you'll learn. She's going to challenge me at every step. That's no fun at all.
Exactly. And you still need to be circumspect about what you're saying.
Yeah.
You're still running game. You're still conscious of your conversation.
Yeah.
And I know this. It has been a long time since I've had to be
sorry.
talking to women. But asking them, what are you passionate about? And I'm able to, because I talk to a lot of women.
Yes.
All day, every day.
Yes.
I can ask about careers and then guide them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I can always find, because it tells me a little bit more about them. You know what I mean?
Yes.
If a girl is a CPA as opposed to a waitress, it tells me her experiences. So when you're talking to her about other things, you can relate it. Does that make sense? It's kind of like in training. I like to know what they do. That way I can relate what we're teaching them in the gym to what they do in the office.
Exactly.
Or on the work site. And it helps them wrap their head around
Girls don't have work sites. That's so silly.
And then if you
guilty pleasures is also
guilty pleasures, which will always come down to reality TV. They always go, and I was like, it's a common answer.
That's hilarious.
Reality TV, and then what's your worst date experience?
Oh,
that's always a good one because one, it gets them talking. 2, you realize how bad it could be.
Right.
You know, and it makes you look like a golden. I mean, it's hard to top.
You're a golden goose
like,
then.
Like one girl I told you about, like she had done the matchmaking and paid a lot of money. And like this African prince showed, I'm not like a prince, but like royalty, or like showed up in the full African dress. And like the waiters and waitresses were like trying to help her get out of there.
Fascinating.
I mean, like with the big hat and the robe. And
fascinating.
She said it was as weird and as uncomfortable as it sounds.
Which in other areas of the country or the world would not have been abnormal at all. But in Fort Worth, Texas, that stands out.
Yeah.
And not in the way that you want it
No,
to.
it's absolutely insane when especially when you're imagining it. And apparently this matchmaker had used this restaurant a lot. So the restaurant kind of like knew the deal.
Yeah.
And they were like, we'll get you out of here as fast as possible.
Fascinating.
Isn't that funny?
Whoo! That's pretty good.
Know.
Well, and I mean, I thought you did, of course I thought you did a good job, like on our first date. I was wearing, it wasn't immodest, but like my cleavage was showing a little bit, you know.
Like today.
Not like today. Today's just to keep you awake, baby. Renee called me out on that.
She knows. Good eye.
You have the cleavage popping. But you said, when did you get those? And you like,
oh, that's funny.
Head nodded towards my tits, which was good. And I think it's a good idea to comment on something that kind of throws, it's not like, oh my God, your tits are hot. Right. It's like, so when did you get those? When did you pay for those?
Exactly.
Or, you know, whatever the case may be. I think there are some good ways to kind of compliment-ish without complimenting.
Yeah.
Because she's used to being complimented. That's a dime a dozen.
And we're in Texas. You see a lot of.
It's more abnormal here not to have, especially if you're in fitness.
It's very normal.
Yeah.
And we're both fitness people. So that's funny.
Yeah.
Forgot about that.
When did you get those?
And if you get stuck, and this is for the older guys, if you get stuck, you can always ask about kids. And I know a lot of people, like a lot of guys get, you know, don't mention. Girls will talk about their kids. I mean, it gives you time. Yeah. It buys you time. They get to talk about something they enjoy.
Well, and inevitably, one of the kids is like in baseball and you played baseball. Or whatever the case may be, it gives you something to relate to.
Or like the kids in competitive, I mean, which means 6 months out of the year,
is what?
She's on the road, competitive soccer.
Yeah.
Like, so 6 months of the year, she's on the road every weekend.
Exactly.
You'll never see her.
Then you know.
Yeah. I mean, all kinds of things. But if you have to buy time, you can go, tell me, you know, how long have you been a mom? How old were you when you had your first baby? You know, and you'll be like, 18, or, you know, I mean, you'll see the whole gamut. It tells you a lot about the person.
And that is a fun question because, you know.
Yeah.
Fort Worth loves to like tell everybody that I was like 14 when I had my first child, which I was not. I was married with the whole
properly
thing,
everything.
But he loves to tell people that I was funny. Like in high school.
Because you see the pictures, you're like, she was like 14. It was crazy. But that, I mean, and it is how you have to go, how old were you when you had your first kid? Yeah. You know, and they'll be, oh, I was 34. You know, I was late. You know.
Yeah.
So they're 3. You know, I mean, that's.
But that also is good because it reveals if you actually want a playmate, someone to spend a lot of time with, dating a single mom who has small children probably isn't going to be a great fit. You know, so this kind of stuff kind of ferrets out how available the girl's going to be. If you're wanting to run a rotation, then a single mom who doesn't have a ton of time on her hands to just, you know, spend obsessing over you is probably a better fit.
Yes.
So depending on where you are and truly what your expectations are of the dating situation, it, you know, will reveal a lot.
If you're a fun guy
and
you want to run a lot of women, busy women work.
Yeah.
Because you can kind of schedule it and you're the fun guy.
Yes.
They don't have to think about you when they're not there.
Exactly.
They can go out, they can go out to dinner, they can go drinking, they can have sex, and you can send them on their way and get back to your life.
And that's all they need.
Yeah. You are the welcome guest. You know, I mean, and you don't bring up relationship, you just let it flow. And then down the road, because a lot of girls, especially newer divorcee, they've got a lot the kids, they haven't figured out their schedule yet, but once a week they can meet up with you and have a good time.
Yeah.
And that's your role. That's your job. And you think nothing more about it than setting up the next time you guys hook up.
Yeah.
You know? So don't, there's always a way to make something work if you want to make it work.
Exactly. I love it. Next on the agenda, darling. This is like too long, didn't read kind of thing, but this is pretty interesting. Okay. Hold on, I've got to enlarge this for myself so I can kind of give the highlights. So what this was a Reddit post, and it was talking about a woman whose sister-in-law got married. And there was a whole thing where they got married down at a body of water. There was a little island where the actual couple was standing in order to say their vows and all this stuff. They don't get wet in doing this. There's like a little path, and it sounds like it was meant for this kind of thing. But the expectation was that all of the guests would be standing in the water to like ankle knee deep to watch this, so that the photographs would be what they want them to be, essentially. And they would not. This one woman who's supposedly writing this post, she has issue with like, water like that, like which
lake water,
a lot
river
of people
water,
do.
water, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's just all kinds of
muddy bottom.
Yeah. There's all kinds of stuff happening in those bodies of water. So she wasn't getting in the water. Plus, apparently, she missed the memo about this being a thing. So she was actually like not wearing appropriate gear for it in the first place. Well, they would not start the fucking wedding because this one woman wouldn't enter into the water. She would be right there at the edge. Like, it doesn't sound like it would be even far.
Right.
But they refused.
And there were kids on the little kids on the shore, and a couple moms were watching. She's like, "I'll watch the kids."
Yeah.
They're like, "No, we want you to watch." So there were like three schools of thought there.
Oh man.
A lot of the comments were like, "Suck it up, step in the water." But I get there are people that cannot step into water that they can't see the bottom.
Yeah.
I get that. We're in Texas. We don't have lakes like up north. It's disgusting.
It is.
I mean, you're just like, okay, I got to get out of this thing. Because you can't see anything. It's dirty and it's just gross.
Yeah.
It's just, even for guys, you're like, I'm going to get a tetanus shot.
Yeah.
But I get that there are women that could not step into that water.
Right.
You don't know what's beneath it's just disgusting. I get that. And so she could have removed herself. Just go back to like the barn.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Get out of sight, out of mind, and let them roll with it.
Right.
And you were saying.
But one of the things also that was really coming up from this was that this bride it's kind of like worst case scenario of what a bridezilla looks like. And this is the kind of story that flips guys out about proposing, marriage, the wedding, any of it. It's like, this is why guys want to go to the justice of the peace and just do it, because they think that their girl will inevitably turn into this.
Yeah, some kind of crazy. And again, I felt bad for the girl that wouldn't get the water. The husband, his sister was the one getting married, and he had forgot to tell her about the water. So basically, he fucked up by not properly preparing her.
Yeah.
It could have been like, once you stay up at the house,
yeah,
I know you're not going to get in that water.
Right.
Or
she could have just worn different clothes. I mean,
or
she
not
could have worn different boots, like taken a pair of boots so that she could have gotten into the water, like all kinds of stuff.
Not freaked out.
But it is a shame, and I think that this is an important point to make for you who, if you ever have any intention in your entire life of getting married, I think it's an important thing to have a strong frame in all walks of life. But I would say it extends to the wedding. A lot of guys tend to be like, that's her thing. And it is, because you guys can also completely ruin the wedding planning experience by thinking that you're going to micromanage a wedding. But not allowing your girl to spin off into a ridiculous land of bizarro world in all walks of life. If this husband, the husband of the bride who is involved in this, had a stronger frame, she wouldn't have said, you know what would be a great idea? Let's force all of our wedding guests
take their shoes off.
To take their shoes off and get into the water so that I can have the perfect wedding photo.
It's true.
I mean, this is where frame comes into play. Yeah. And I think that guys are great at practicing having frame in attraction and dating, in pickup, but then they get comfortable. Once they're in a relationship, they forget. And guys, we see it all the time, or I wouldn't have accused you of this. They forget that you have to hold frame throughout the relationship. So that doesn't mean you micromanage everything. It doesn't mean that, you have two jobs now. One is taking care of her or managing what she's doing every minute of every day. But it does mean not allowing things to spin off into bizarro world. This is like something out of a Willy Wonka chocolate factory. I mean, it really is strange. And I've seen some bridezillas, but I mean, this one just caught me so off guard. But
obviously, yeah.
But it's such a great example of why you have to hold frame. A man who had strong frame would not have a bridezilla. Now, there's still going to be bridezillas, even for the strongest frame, because this is the party that she's been planning in her mind since she was in preschool. Yeah. Since she was playing Barbies, she was setting up, the wedding. And we've spent entire, shows talking about this kind of stuff. But strong frame goes a long way in preventing this kind of behavior.
Yeah, it's true.
It is true. Great show, as usual. Thanks, Jimmy Dare. We appreciate it. Okay. What should I saw that. What should a guy's online dating profile look like? Now, I literally wrote the book on this, my Magic Dating Online Profile Handbook. Magic Bullet Online Dating Profile Handbook. It's a mouthful. So the first thing that you have to focus on is your photos. Because if a girl doesn't get past your pictures, she's not going to look at anything else. She's not going to look at what you write. She's not going to jump into your DMs. She's not going to respond if you DM. If your pictures are not solid, then she's not going to look twice at
any guy that has gone online and not had much luck and they feel personally rejected, they're not rejecting you.
Yeah.
They're rejecting your photographs.
Right.
That
exactly.
is all they're rejecting. There are certain people that online dating favors.
Yeah.
And there's some that are at a bit of a disadvantage, but there are always exceptions.
Yeah.
It's not, if you're under 6 foot or under 5'11", is a little bit harder.
Yeah.
It's a little bit harder for non-white guys, I think. Unless you're in a niche site, what I mean, like where like Indians congregate or
Sure.
I think it's a little bit harder for non-white guys. And the height thing is a barrier because these women are so, what do you say?
They're 5'2", but they have
they have an idea.
They need a 6
Again,
foot
it's
girl,
you're
a guy.
in person.
No
You'll be banging her within an hour.
Yeah.
But it's hard to get them in person, which is the goal of online dating. But beyond that, they're not rejecting you.
Yeah.
They're rejecting your photographs.
Yeah.
After the photographs, Bunny's right. I mean, you can say I'm a serial killer.
Yeah.
And they'll be like, I've always wanted to go out with a serial killer.
It's true.
It does not matter. I would suggest always using the word.
Was a serial killer.
Exactly.
What a coincidence.
My last 3 boyfriends could have been serial. They don't care beyond the pictures.
It's true.
What I've seen consistently, use the word dominant. You have a dominant personality. You have a dominant attitude. Just use that word in some place and you'll get more responses.
Right.
And
you'll also, I think you'll also field through the girls who absolutely do not want that. Because there are a lot of girls these days, especially, who I would say absolutely don't think that they want that. Now, in person, great, but you're not going to get along. Exactly. So it's a good word to use. Yeah,
at the end of the day, and again, the idea of online dating is simply to, of course, he asked about the profile.
No, but this is important.
Is to not dilly-dally online.
Yeah.
It's to have a few exchanges, get her number, few exchanges, meet up.
Yeah.
Meet up as fast as possible. And that's it. I mean, online is simply a substitute for running into them at work, running into them on the street, running into them at the grocery store.
Yeah.
That's where you're running into them. And then you get in front of them. I mean, that's the only difference.
Yeah.
Because I remember when I first got divorced, I was like, well, how do you date how do you seduce somebody online? Well, you don't.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
But so your pictures need to have some basic principles to them. They need to, number 1, be current. Number 2, they need to look, your front profile picture needs to look essentially like you're going to look when you show up for the date. That needs to be the best picture of you going out on a date that you've ever taken. You also need some adventure pictures in there, something showing that you have a life, even if it's completely contrived. Even if you never hike, you never travel, you never skydive, whatever the case may be, if you can do something for a day and snap a picture of it, it's a win. You need to also show that you have friends, preferably a group picture that includes males and females. You also need a photo of you preferably dressed up, but not in a rented tux, not in your wedding picture from your previous marriage, not in a rented tux for another person's wedding. No rented tux pictures. Just dress up, a dressed up photo, whatever that looks like for you. And maybe a casual, just chill, something to show. I always call it a personality picture. Something to show your personality. Now, I will say, alcohol is not a personality. I know that men and women alike are really great at making a personality these days, but it's not. Eliminate alcohol from as many of the pictures as you possibly can, unless you are a sommelier or you are, a distributor for a beer company, you are a distiller, you are a home brewer. Like, unless your career and your true passion is alcohol in some nature, eliminate alcohol from your photos, because every single girl who is on online dating has dealt in some way, shape, or form with someone who could not control their alcohol, and they're avoiding that like the plague, at least on the front end. So that is an immediate elimination if she thinks that you are just going to get drunk and piss in the corner of a closet.
Remember, guys online are looking for things to approve of.
Yes.
Women are looking for reasons to eliminate you.
Yes.
So what you want to do is be as innocuous as possible. Once you get in front of each other, then you can kind of let your freak flag fly.
Exactly.
But again, and this, the don'ts are actually probably more important than the do's sometimes.
Absolutely.
No hats, no sunglasses, no dead animals. I think that would be it, because firearms are fine, because that's something that's going to, if you're on the gun range, it shows you're a man of action.
I would say no animals, period. Even if you love your dog, that can come up in conversation. Yes. Because they're either dog lovers or dog haters. They're either cat girls or not cat girls. Like it automatically eliminates essentially half the population.
So
kind of like political things.
Yeah. You want it to be somewhat neutral.
Yeah.
And put your best foot forward.
Yeah.
And then you can kind of worry about the details down the road. If you want to meet her.
Yeah.
You know, you just want to get matches and then start sifting them out.
But like your profile said something like, I'm a little bit of an asshole. Or something like that. Yeah. You know, I think it said something like, I'm a little bit of an asshole. Not the kick the dog kind or something along that.
Exactly.
Yeah. So it was funny. It was very much like he's not taking things too seriously. Yeah. He gets it, you know.
And that's what girls
chicks
want.
dig jerks.
Yeah. That's funny. And that's the thing. I mean, you can, you know, you'll get a lot of matches, and that way that allows you to kind of like eliminate who you're not interested in.
Yeah.
If they have purple hair, you're not into. You know, anything that doesn't work for you, you can just move on.
Yeah.
You know, but a somewhat neutral profile, which everything looks good, will do well.
I love it.
Girls are very
perceptive.
Yeah, and they're pretty easy. How would you say? They all go to Starbucks. So there's certain things that just seem to work. You know, am I right?
Yes!
I mean, that's how I want to convey it. They all go to Starbucks. They all go to Target. And you set your profile up that. And then once they meet up with you, you're who you are.
Yeah.
You know?
I love that. I love that. What would you say, last question, final question. What are your top tips for having irrational self-confidence or displaying irrational self-confidence? And I think this plays into the online dating profiles, getting her in front of you on that first date, and just life in general. It goes for work and for play. Irrational self-confidence.
I know. I'm trying to think. Are you talking about like in the moment or the things that you can do to physically active is the first one. I think that's foundational.
Yeah.
Guys that feel good in their skin and aren't overweight or are moving, even if you're just in the process of moving to getting into shape, will help your self-confidence more than literally anything. I mean, you can have a dead-end job.
Yeah.
But if you exercise regularly and have a good physique or you take care of yourself, you'll feel better about yourself. And when you're naked, and you can do anything you want. You can always get a better job, you know. But that would be the first course, is laying down a foundation of solid physical confidence.
Yeah.
Because it's hard to be mentally confident when you're physically vulnerable.
It's true.
Or weak and you don't feel good, or you're having health issues, which crop up really early with people that don't take care of themselves. So being physically confident, having confidence in your abilities, because like I said, the biggest players I've ever seen are bodybuilding bartenders. You know, it's not like, you know, and guys that like two brothers that were skateboarders in Dallas, they lived in their car and they always had hot women with them. It had nothing to do with their income.
No.
They were like selling stuff, like skateboarding stuff out of the back of their car. So, you know, the money thing is negotiable.
Yeah.
But I think really the physical confidence.
Yeah.
And then everything else after that's negotiable.
Yeah.
And keeping it to yourself.
And I would say that women read confidence, even if the money's not there yet. A man who's confident, you think, this guy can get any job he wants to.
Yeah.
Because if he's confident, he has the skill set to do what he wants to do.
Yeah. And I've set up a list before, like for older guys that don't have a lot of money, but things that kind of compensate for that, like being an adventurer, traveling a lot, having a sport, being able to play an instrument, art, you know, all these things play into it.
Exactly.
Younger guys, the one thing that doesn't do it is video games. I hate to be like that, but it's just not going to carry any weight.
Right.
You know,
it doesn't turn girls on.
It's not sexy for whatever reason. It's sexy to you. It's sexy to you bros, but girls don't consider it like you being able to play a guitar, you know, for whatever reason.
Well, it's for us, that means that there are 16-hour stretches where you're going to completely ignore us where the only thing you're going to say is, you know, make me a sandwich, or hey, are we out of Mountain Dew already? Like, it's, even if you're a high achiever in every area of life, if you're a gamer, it comes off as, oh God, it's you know, it's a time suck.
Exactly. And when you're a younger guy, you're under 30, the things that can build confidence is experience in different endeavors.
Yeah.
You know, say learning how to sail, joining the army, joining a fraternity, anything that's male orientated.
Yeah.
Getting a very male, I mean, it can even be roofing houses, lifeguarding, applying to be a cop. I mean, anything that's very, because when you're younger, you're high risk, your ability to take high risk, and you're disposable, you know, at the end of the day. And but it's like Chateau says, disposability is a high value marker. You know, the ability to perish early, you know, is a display of high value.
Right.
So anything, you know, these experiences, you can't just do it mentally.
Right.
You can't just say, you can't fake it till you make it, but usually you're faking it through the process, through the physical process to make it.
Yeah.
You know, even if you just, I know that sounds crazy, but a lot of guys, I saw a guy on Twitter that had joined the infantry.
Yeah.
I think he's a reservist. And none of the guys really understood. They go, did you really join the Army? He goes, yeah, I went, you know, he'd already been through basic training and AIT and, you know.
Yeah.
And he kind of had to explain himself. He said, I wanted the skills and I wanted to kind of like know what it was about.
Right.
Because I see more guys my age going, yeah, I should have joined. I should have. It's one of those things that if you have the inclination, you just do it.
Yeah.
You know, and then the confidence is there. It's foundational.
Yeah.
And then just, I mean, I see a lot of guys do MMA is excellent for their self-confidence.
Yeah.
Huge.
Even if you're getting your ass kicked every time.
If you're not a weightlifter, if you don't have any interest in being a gym rat, or lifting weights just isn't your thing. I mean, the MMA stuff. Yeah. It's as hard, if not harder.
Oh, I think it's harder.
Will develop you just as much.
Yeah.
You know,
I would liken video gaming to girls who have who make TikTok videos. I think that they have the same, like, guys see, you know, she says, oh, I'm a content creator on TikTok. He's like, oh God. Oh God. I think that's the best comparison as to how girls respond to guys who say they're gamers.
There you go.
I do.
Okay.
Oh shit.
Man. See that shit all the time.
Yeah.
But for younger guys, building confidence comes from doing.
Huge. That's a good.
You can't just. I mean, and normally guys will feel like I'm not moving forward. Yeah. You know. I always feel bad. I'm like, if you're 21 and you're waking up in the morning, you're like, yeah, I'm not getting anything done. And this is not going forward, and I'm not making any more money. I just say enlist. Yeah. I know that sounds crazy, and if you have a college degree, try to get those CS.
Absolutely.
Or Absolutely. Green to gold. Because it's 4 years. It'll give you 4 years that you're paid and have a little bit of adventure. Yeah. You know, and that's just in general. I mean, if you're not, again, you may be better off getting into MMA. Right. You know, something you can stay home and, you know, you don't have to go too far, but you'll learn a lot about yourself. Absolutely. You know, so. Absolutely. Yeah, martial arts always a good idea for men, you know, in all endeavors.
I love it. Good show, baby.
Thank you. And if you guys have any suggestions, you know, because I have my experience. Yeah. And the guys around me tend to have the same experiences. Right.
We always surround ourselves by people who agree with us.
So if you've seen other ways of developing confidence, put them in the comments. We like to know.
We do. Yeah. We do.
Because I don't get that question often. It's very important.
Well, good. I'm glad I randomly came up with it.
Perfect. Well, we appreciate your time. Everybody, 6 or 7 people spending an hour with us is a lot of time built up. And we will be back on Sunday morning.
Sunday for the Bunny Show Live. Bunny Show Live at 10 a.m. on Sundays.
Then we're planning on moving this to Thursday consistently. Yeah. And then we will look forward to seeing you. And don't forget, where do they put the questions?
myplayboysbunny.com/men. If you'd like to submit questions for the Bunny Show, I'm sorry, for any of our live programs, really, and you're not comfortable putting them in the chat box in real time, feel free to submit it, myplayboysbunny.com/men, and you'll see a box that says submit questions for Q&A.
Thank you. Have a great day, guys.
We want you to win. Bye! No show would be complete without that annoying sound.
Oh, I know.